Hello, hello. How's everyone doing? It's really, really great to be here and start a really remarkable series of conversations on the second X Day. And I have here with me Daniel from Google, and it's extraordinary to finally come together and have these conversations on how we can actually accelerate adoption of Web3 and the technologies that we're building. So welcome, Daniel. It's really great to have you here.
Thank you. Hello, X-Day. And let me congratulate you on an amazing event. It's really, really impressive. And your talk yesterday, yeah, I think it's phenomenal. So congrats.
Thank you. The key discussion that we've started with yesterday and that we re-emphasized throughout the day was how can we build the bridges that connect the dots and enable us to accelerate adoption to a point that has never been seen before, especially for Web3. So as we start this conversation, I'm very curious maybe to hear your thoughts on how Google looks at this, and especially since Google is not a small company anymore. So for if anyone anyone here in the hall does not know who Google is, I'd say there are some very fascinating stats that make this conversation very, very interesting and fascinating. So very curious to hear maybe where Google is at this point, and hear some of your thoughts and progress that you've made around Web3 and some of these technologies, whether it's Metaverse or AI.
Sure. So first of all, yes, we celebrated our 20th anniversary this year. So only 25 years, but also feels like 25 years is quite a long time already. Having said that, we come to Web3 very humbly. It's a very natural fit for us from a philosophy point of view. And I know that it's easy to say, and I think some of the proof points of that is that not everyone is necessarily aware of, is that Google was the biggest publicly listed investor in Web3 last year. We invested $1.5 billion in the Web3 industry. So that really shows that we're absolutely dedicated to the success of Web3. It is a world that reminds us of the rise of the internet itself, where we wanted to democratize access to information. This is the mission for Google, and it has been for 25 years. So blockchain as a technology for us is very close to home. And I think as we are now moving into the era of AI, we see a few worlds collide, worlds that are very close to what Google has been doing and is doing today. And what we're hoping to do with this really exciting partnership that we're announcing today.
Woo!
And we'll discuss a bit more about that in a minute. But hopefully what we're going to do is we're going to democratize this opportunity to the world. And as an industry, we've all been talking about getting to 1 billion users and making sure that this is not just... Exactly. This shouldn't be...
This is it.
This shouldn't be for just a niche group. This has to be for everyone. And we as Google, having 4 billion users of our apps, and hopefully apps that you all use today, making sure that we can reach that scale through partnerships, such as with MultiversX, is what really, really excites us.
I think I'll double-click on some of the ideas that you've mentioned. And we've discussed in the past a bit what are some of the strategies that we could actually accelerate adoption. Because there are many, many efforts that are being done on many fronts. But the question is always, what are the efforts that could bring a disproportionate effect? And maybe a good starting point is looking at the companies that have achieved this type of scale that you're discussing about, to have the conversation with Google at maybe 1 million users in the early days, at 10 million users, at 100 million users would have been something. To discuss with Google at 4 billion users, more than half of the world's population, that's extraordinary. So I'm very curious a bit how you look at the acceleration path. If you have some things in mind that you believe could bring us from the hundreds of millions maybe that we have right now in Web3 to the billions of users. And as you've mentioned, partnerships and collaborations are probably the most fundamental starting point. Where do you see the growth, the engine for this type of adoption moving forward?
Sure. So let me start with the end in mind. We all talk about Web3, and I think our collective mission has to be that we drop the 3 as soon as possible. What we're building here as a collective industry has to be the next logical evolution of the web. And today, I think people have to be too concerned about underlying infrastructure, wallets, security, interoperability. We need to take away all of these concerns so that we can see a rate of acceleration as we're seeing in the Web2 world today. And again, the apps that we're all using as consumers. That, I think, is absolutely critical. What is required to do so is to make sure that we as an industry create an infrastructure that supports that kind of scale. And if I think about what we have built over the years to cater to 4 billion users, that is a global infrastructure that spans all the continents, that is ocean cables that connect these continents, that is making sure that wherever you are, you have real-time access to data, and you can analyze that data and use it for your own applications, and do so in a way that takes away the headache of actually managing that infrastructure. And that is why in this partnership, we are very focused on the startups, the builders, the developers, because you are the ones that are going to make this happen. You have to put this technology in the hands of everyday consumers and users so that we can actually start to scale some of these exciting use cases. So getting from Web3 to the web, I think, is ultimately what we're trying to achieve.
This is the thing, exactly as you pointed out. And I think even in our first conversation, we discussed about this idea that people get a bit distracted usually by the different hills or milestones that they want to achieve in an intermediary state. But it is the idea of getting to the first billion or the first few billion that shifts the mindset completely on the things that really matter. And just to highlight 2 or 3 points that we've been focused on doing as well with MultiversX that have been showcased yesterday. The idea of transitioning from dial-up to broadband in terms of speed, performance, and scale for a network seems something that is a no-brainer. Like, there is no way around this type of shift in terms of infrastructure. So we're extraordinarily excited for all the updates that we've unveiled for the MultiversX network. But even more excited, perhaps, as a step of coming much closer to the users that we want to bring on board is the step that we've done in terms of user experience. And whether it's with Xportal, where we've abstracted away complexity and added some features that people can use in everyday life, whether it's everything around crypto or all the things that are really, really loved around fiat, where everyone sits at this point. Crypto is something that we have a bunch of people, the communities that we, let's say, grow, but fiat is where everyone sits. So if we have this bridge, we're opening a very, very, very different path for adoption that can accelerate, but something that's even closer to what you were discussing and what I think is funny, because I think we've not managed to discuss this before, is we've unveiled a product called xAlias that essentially enables anyone to log in any dApp with Google. So they'll have an abstracted wallet with everything they need that's non-custodial. And this has been unveiled yesterday. Everyone that's a builder. So everyone that's a builder has something that is not focused on the users directly, but just can be incorporated and eliminates the entire friction of logging in. And what better option to log in with than 4 billion users that actually use Google. So that's I think, a great starting point. But that there are, as Daniel mentioned, many things that can be done on top of that to accelerate things. And this brings us to what he was mentioning before, which will be how we can measure success of our undertaking. The way that we're doing things right now in differentiating things from Web 1, Web 2, Web 3, most of the people will never care about that. They will never care about whether this is Web 1 or Web 2 or Web 3. Most of the people, even in Web 3, might not know what differentiates Web 2 or Web 3. But the way we will know we have succeeded is when this is just the web, where it just works, it's incorporated or embedded and integrated with some of the biggest technologies in the world. And this is precisely what makes this conversation today really exciting and what brings us much closer to what we've been preparing and working on for some time to be able to unveil. So, Daniel, yeah, drums, please.
Yeah, should we talk about the partnership?
Yeah.
I think people really want to understand what this is all about.
Let's do it.
So, let me share with you the 4 pillars that constitute this partnership. And again, from the Google side, we're truly really excited about helping us move forward in the industry. So, first of all, critical is that we democratize multiverse access data, blockchain data, to everyone who wants to analyze this, who wants to integrate it in their dApps. So what we are going to do is we're going to integrate your data into our data warehouse, BigQuery, which is used by millions and millions of users and enterprises around the world. So I think that's going to be a very big first step.
Woo! This is done right now as we speak.
So that's number 1. Number 2, we're going to collaborate at an ecosystem level. And what that means is that all the startups here today and everyone in the future that's going to be part of the MultiversX ecosystem, we invite you to join our startup program, which will provide you with up to $200,000 in Google Cloud credits. We're going to invite you to all of our major marketing events. We're going to join up with you in a go-to-market, and we'll help you with introductions to VCs, either here today or not here today, to make sure that we can help you in your fundraising.
Woo! This is a serious milestone for builders, so it really is time to build.
And then the 3rd pillar is where we are super excited, is to become effectively the layer 0 to MultiversX. So MultiversX will be building your platform, your infrastructure onto Google Cloud Platform, where we can provide our secure and scalable and reliable global infrastructure to you and make sure that you, through us, can help the ecosystem build the dApps.
Thank you.
And then last but not least, we're going to focus on hackathons and developer support. So we want to make sure that we put this joint technology in the hands of everyone and support you adopt this through mentorships and making sure that we can do this at scale. So look out for really exciting hackathons to come, and we will be there to support you along the way. So those are the key pillars of our partnership.
So I think it's phenomenal that 5 years from the inception of what at that point was called Elrond and is now MultiversX, we sit here with Google and discuss about how we can accelerate global adoption. This alone is not a dream anymore. It is something that is happening right now, and it's phenomenal to have this type of partnership and collaboration that focuses on a few very, very important points. And I will just double click on each of them and maybe translate them a bit for the audience. To have the data that we have on the MultiversX blockchain embedded in the Google BigQuery API is extraordinary. Why? Because all the millions of builders that are already using BigQuery from Google can now build and work and integrate and explore everything that we have on the MultiversX blockchain. So it is opening a door that makes things a lot simpler for all the builders that are building applications and so forth. Now, the second point, again, focuses on the idea that we've been pushing very, very hard, that it is the builders that are the engine of the economy, the engines and drivers of change and improvement. And what better can we do than bring even more partners that have strategic insights, resources, infrastructure to do whatever they can to help the builders do even more, accelerate, and leverage some of the infrastructure that has been built. Now, in addition to all that, the discussion around hackathons and the discussion on other collaborations that we're working on and preparing is extraordinarily important because it means that we're opening this gateway on which we'll have several conversations and push things forward. But it's absolutely extraordinary to have this live now with Google. Thank you, Daniel.
No, it is great to be here and to finally share announcement with the world. And why we're super excited and equally confident that we can jointly bring this success to the industry is, as you mentioned it yesterday, and it was already talked about this morning, the focus on not just Web3, but Metaverse and also AI. And AI, of course, sits very close to Google. If you consider all the exciting Gen AI use cases that we're seeing today and that we're using, the Transformer paper in 2017 was written by Google. We open sourced it with the industry because that is our culture. We are a very big supporter of open source. And now we're seeing all these fantastic and phenomenal use cases come to fruition. So that's really exciting. And if you then consider that 70% of all the AI unicorns are built on Google Cloud Platform, hopefully that gives you in all the MultiversX builders also the confidence that this is going to be the partnership that you want to be part of and build your applications on and infuse not just your Web3 dApps, but also your other applications with these AI technologies that we can hopefully bring to you. So we very much invite you to become part of this. There are a lot of Google colleagues at the Google booth, so if you want to understand more about using our technology, becoming part of our startup program where you can sign up for Google Cloud credits, please come by. We're happy to talk to you, and we really look forward to welcoming you and seeing all the exciting startups that will come from this. So thank you again for your partnership, Benjamin.
It's really, really awesome. Maybe on a last note, I will zoom out a bit and come back to this point that we've made at the beginning, saying that if we look very closely, it seems we are at a turning point where three technologies seem to rise above all others. Blockchain and Web3, AI, and spatial computing, or the Metaverse. And given everything we've seen in the last 20, 25 years, I think it's an extraordinary time to be alive and experiment, explore, and really push as hard as possible to build with these technologies. Everything that we're trying to do is lowering the barrier, bringing a lot more resources, bringing a lot more partners to make sure that with the ecosystem and with the entire maybe Web3, AI, and spatial computing ecosystems, we can push through and build some of the applications that really bring not only millions of users or tens of millions, hundreds of millions, but we can really pierce and bring the billions of users that we really want. It may not happen overnight, as interestingly enough, it did not happen with Google. Like 25 years, when someone says they've started something 25 years ago, that's an entire life. It's extraordinary to even state that out loud. But to have this first step, this important bridge built and showcased and shared with the entire community is absolutely extraordinary. So thank you, Daniel. And it's really, really great, but I'm also extremely fascinated and curious to see how things evolve and how we really accelerate. Not only Web3 adoption, but also AI and spatial computing adoption.
Likewise.
Thank you, guys.